Good afternoon, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane Outlook and discussion for Sunday, the 19th of June, 2016. Happy Father's Day to all of you dads out there. I'm one of them myself. Lots of children around. Luckily, they're not bothering me now, so I can do this update. There's a little bit to talk about today. Invest area, 94L down here in the Bay of Campeche. Looked like it wasn't going to do much as it was approaching out of the Caribbean Sea. Hurricane Center only gave it a 10% chance of formation to begin with, and then it went up to 20, and then 40, and then now here we are sitting at 70. So it shows you how fast things can change. In their defense, it was mentioned quite prominently that if it stayed out over water more, which it's doing, then it would have a better chance of development. So had it come in and just kind of done like this, obviously, then we probably wouldn't be looking at a red X down here. So what's going on? Well, basically it's a low pressure area. There's a tropical wave that's come in. So a fairly broad area of low pressure in the Bay of Campeche heading towards eastern Mexico. And the recon team from the Hurricane Hunters out of Keesler Air Force Base near Biloxi, Mississippi will go down presumably later today and check it out and give us information from the system itself, in situ, as they say, on-site information, very helpful. You can see in the unenhanced infrared shot here, so this is looking at the cloud top temperatures just using grayscale, so anything on the left side is warmer, anything on the right side is colder in the cloud top temperature category. So you can see that there's some broad turning down here for sure, counterclockwise flow. There's definitely low pressure down there, but you can also tell that we do have these clouds kind of streaking out again in one direction instead of fanning out in all directions, indicating a nice anticyclone aloft. Instead, this is under a shear pattern where the winds are going against the system and it's shearing it off and not allowing it to develop quickly. And the water temperatures down here, which I'm going to show you in a moment, are warm enough that if the shear wasn't present, this would develop rather quickly. This is a neat feature, the Graphicast from the Tropical Analysis and Forecast branch down at the National Hurricane Center, showing the position of the low. This is really for marine interests. Seas 8 to 10 feet, and if you know the Gulf of Mexico, you know that 8 to 10 foot seas out there is a big deal. And there are certainly lots of offshore petroleum interests in this region. And so this is interesting to see. I thought I would just pull up this sort of old school looking map. Kind of looks like something from the 1990s, but they still produce it. And sometimes simple's better because you have just the information that you need on here and nothing else. So it's easy to discern what's what. And then you see their little paragraph here, low pressure has formed with the potential to develop into a tropical cyclone. So it could become a depression, which would be winds of less than 39 miles per hour, tropical depression, or it could become a tropical storm before landfall. The 5,000 foot vorticity, or 850 millibars in the atmosphere, not too bad, kind of a roundish shape, kind of elongated on the southeast side of it, but all in all, it's trying to bundle that energy in the limited space that it has. Most systems that develop near 20 degrees north latitude, which I'm drawing on right here, in the Bay of Campeche, tend to stay down there. There's usually high pressure sitting over this area or over the southeast or the Gulf or what have you, and it typically just steers these into Mexico. Sometimes later in the season when you get a trough that comes down and erodes that ridge, kind of acts like a magnet, and it can pull these out and head towards Florida or the northern Gulf Coast, but most of them go into Mexico for what it's worth. And that's what the models are showing, the different plots here. You can see on the right-hand side quite a plethora of different model outputs, and most of them aiming the cone, if you want to call it that, the envelope, I guess you could call it, the guidance envelope, towards eastern Mexico. Usually that's what's going to happen this time of year especially. The intensity plot, nothing really to worry about wind-wise, maybe briefly a tropical storm, and then it'll decay quickly as it makes landfall in the next 36 hours or probably less. As I mentioned, water temperatures down in this region, nice and warm. This color here, what would you call that, cyan, I guess, something like that. not quite teal, right? Cyan maybe. That indicates about 29 degrees Celsius water. So, no issues with cooler water, not this time of year. It's definitely warm enough. And even the heat content, the upper ocean heat content right in this region where it's developing, at the, trying to inch up towards the middle part of the scale. So there's definitely some energy for this to work with. And it could become a tropical depression or a tropical storm. And if we look at the model analysis here from the GFS, I mean, this is brand new, just in the last little while. I'll step through the next 48 hours. Here's our system down here. This is 850 millibars in the atmosphere, showing rotation or energy, vorticity, spinning, all those things. And you can see it's not very well organized now. And as I step through the frames, watch what happens with it. That energy moves inland towards Mexico. Not very fast, but then it kind of dies out and gets strung out over time. So right here in the eastern part of Mexico, Tuxpan, is that how you say that, hopefully? And vicinity, the main threat going to be heavy rain. And as you can see, a little bit of the outline of the ridging here in the mid-levels to low levels of the atmosphere. Not going to allow this to pop out and come up towards the Gulf Coast, either the eastern side, and certainly not towards Texas either. So that's good. You guys have had way too much rain, and you could dry out for a little bit. So we'll watch it and see what goes on with that. Models also indicating the possibility, at least the GFS, in the longer range, 8, 9, 10 days, something like that, that maybe something else tries to develop in the Northwest Caribbean. Just wanted to give you sort of a heads up on that. The computer models sometimes can sniff things out when the pattern's correct, and sometimes they're erroneous. They develop stuff spuriously. But anything inside of 10 days, I can look at it and say, all right, well, that's something I'll certainly watch. I'm not going to worry about it. Once you get plus 11 days out, after the 10-day time frame, it's more just, okay, let's see if it keeps going and if it gets closer into the near term, medium range. So something to watch. Seems like we're off to a pretty quick start, especially if this develops and becomes a named storm. It would be Danielle, and I do believe we would be at a record pace again. I think the last time we got to the fourth named storm so soon was in 2012 by about June 23rd. So interesting week ahead, that's for sure. There'll be lots to talk about. All right, well, that's it from me for today. Have a great rest of your Sunday. I am Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com. Thanks, as always, for tuning in. I'll be back with you sometime tomorrow.